Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to do this wicker pumpkin crochet pattern. So this is what it looks like. This is on some lighter worsted weight yarn. I'm actually going to be using Lion Brand Rewind for the tutorial, and I've got a starting chain ready to go. This, so you can see it, is a bulkier weight yarn, so I'm actually making stacking pumpkins with these. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a half double crochet in each chain across our starting chain. For reference, you can start with any starting chain. How I measured this for myself is I found the circumference I wanted my pumpkin to be, and I chained out to that length. So you'll see me here doing a half double crochet in each chain across, and we are going to repeat that all the way till the end. So I will meet you at the end of this row. So we're coming to the end of the first row here, so you can see all of our half double crochets worked up. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain one and turn. We're going to work a half double crochet in the first stitch from our hook. You can see here, and once we work that, we are going to chain one and then skip the next stitch, and we're going to work another half double crochet in the stitch after that. And we're going to repeat that all across the row. So we're going to half double crochet, and then we are going to chain one, skip the next stitch, and then work a half double crochet in the stitch after that. And that's going to repeat all the way across the row up until the end. So I'm going to go ahead and work that and meet you at the end. Okay, so we're coming to the end of row 2 here, working a half double crochet in the last stitch. So here's what it looks like so far. The next row does get a bit complicated, so what we're going to do is chain one and turn, and then I'm going to slow things down a bit so that you can catch everything. Okay, so first things first, we're going to half double crochet in our first stitch, and then we're going to chain one. Now, it does get a bit complicated as we're working into different spaces after this. So what we're going to do after our chain one is yarn over and insert our hook into the first chain one space. Pull up a loop there so that you have 3. Yarn over again, pull up a loop in the half double crochet from row 1. So that's 2 rows below. 5 loops on your hook now, yarn over again and insert your hook in the next chain one space. So you have 7 loops, and then you're going to pull through all 7 loops on your hook and chain 1. So to repeat that, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook in the same space you just worked in, same chain one space, pull up a loop there, insert it in the half double crochet from the row below, pull up a loop, and the next chain one space and pull up a loop. Pull through all 7 loops and then chain 1. And repeat the process again. And so all that is you're yarning over, pulling up a loop in the same chain one space, yarn over, pull up a loop in the half double crochet from row 1 below, yarn over and pull up a loop in the next chain one space, and then yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on your hook, and then chain 1. We're going to repeat this process all the way across the row, and you can watch a little bit of it here so that you can get the hang of it. It is a little bit more complicated, so feel free to pause and go back as many times as you need to get the hang of this. This is the most complicated part of the pattern, but it does create a very beautiful texture. So I'm going to continue with this and meet you at the end. Okay, so we're coming up on the end here, and in the last stitch, all you want to do is make a half double crochet in the very last stitch. So you'll see me chain 1 here, and then half double crochet in this very last stitch, and you have completed row 3. So you can see now that the feather stitch is really starting to work up. That second row really does show the texture of the pattern. And what we're going to do now is chain 1 and turn, and we're going to feather stitch again into row 4. So we're going to repeat row 3 for this, we're going to half double crochet in our first stitch and then chain 1. We're going to work our feather stitch in the first chain 1 space, the half double crochet directly below it, and the chain 1 space after that. And all the feather stitch is pulling up a loop. So you have 3 loops, pulling up a loop in the half double crochet directly below till you have 5 loops, and then pulling up a loop from the next chain 1 space after that, and then pulling through all 7 loops on your hook, and then chain 1. Again, we're going to pull up a loop in that same chain 1 space we just worked in, pull up a loop in the half double crochet directly below, and pull up a loop in the next chain 1 space. Yarn over and pull through all 7 on your hook, and then chain 1. And we're going to repeat that all the way across the row. You can also find the feather stitch description in the description on this video in case you need the written words to be able to follow along. You can find them there, so it's a little bit less confusing as well. So I'm going to continue working this across the row. This row we're actually going to repeat until we reach the height of pumpkin that we're looking for. So I'm looking to make a medium pumpkin, so I didn't make this one too tall. So I will continue working this and repeating this and meet you at the end. So we're coming up on the end of the row here, and just like we did for the previous row, we're just going to half double crochet in the final stitch there. So we're going to work that, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to keep repeating this same row until we reach our height. So you can start to see the texture working up. So we have 2 rows of feather stitch and then the base rows below them. So I actually have here the little pumpkin that I made. This was made in a worsted weight yarn. So you can kind of see the differences in the different types of yarns that you may use for this and how it'll look a little bit different. I love them both ways. I think they still have great texture. And it just reminds me of that wicker type pattern. So I'm going to continue here until we reach our desired height, and I will meet you at the end. So here we are at the end. This is how many rows I ended up working. I love the texture of this so much, so you can see it a little bit more up close. It really does remind me of that wicker. So our next step is we are going to join the 2 sides so that we can create a tube that will become our pumpkin. So I'm opting to seam this together using slip stitch. You can also leave a long tail on your yarn and seam this together in whatever your preferred seaming method is, but for the purposes of this tutorial I will just be using a simple slip stitch, and we're going to seam this together. So I'm going to go ahead and work this up and meet you at the end. So here we are at the end, and we actually have a couple options here. First, we're going to flip this inside out because we want the seam to be on the inside and not visible on the outside of the pumpkin. So here, I'm going to cut and tie off and weave in my ends. However, you can also opt to leave a long tail of about 10 to 20 inches that you can use to sew your pumpkin together. So now that we have this flipped right side in, I'm going to take a long piece of my same yarn I've been working with, and I'm going to secure that and start to weave in my pumpkin to cinch it the same way that you would cinch the top of a beanie. So you'll see me here cut this strand. I have a tapestry needle here. That's what I recommend using for this. I'm going to get my yarn on there, and how I secure it is I go through the same loop twice. So you'll see me go in here. I will pull this all the way through, leaving just a short tail of yarn at the end. And then I will go into that same space again. And at the end of this, I will tie a knot just to make sure that this is secure, but for now, this will do. And then I'm just going to go around and I'm going to work into the stitch spaces that we made during our work, just like that, from the back to the front. And I'm going to work this all the way around and keep doing that in every stitch. The one issue you will see me have in this video is that this yarn rips a little bit more easily than a normal worsted weight yarn would because it is ribbon yarn. so I do have a little bit of trouble with that. But you're going to keep working this, and then every few stitches or so you'll see me tug on my long tail of yarn to cinch my pumpkin together. So I'm going to keep working this around, and I will meet you once we are able to cinch this pumpkin shut on one end. Okay, so you'll see I have now cinched the pumpkin closed on one end, and what we want to do is repeat this process on the opposite end. So I'm going to attach my yarn in the same way that I did the first time, and I'm going to go ahead and cinch this all the way around. First, I'm going to put a little bit of stuffing. This is optional. Normally when I make pumpkins, I stuff them right before I finish cinching the top, but I just wanted to see how the shape was going to turn out for this one, so I did put a little bit more stuffing, and I added more at the end once I had cinched this a little bit more closed. So you'll see here I've now cinched the top of my pumpkin shut as well. I did add a little bit more stuffing, and what we're going to do now is the shaping of the pumpkin. So make sure you leave a long tail when you're done. And what we're going to do is use a very long tail to start shaping it. So I'm going to pull my yarn through the top to bottom, and you'll see it leaves a little bit of a line, and we're going to tug so that it creates the little dent that we want in our pumpkin, just like you would any other pumpkin you make. Again, this yarn does rip a little bit more easily, so you will see me struggle a little bit with this, trying not to pull too hard. But I'm going to do this so that I create 5 about equal indentations in my pumpkin. You can do 6, you can do 3, you can do as many as you like. I've found that 5 works best for me. So I finished that, and here is our finished pumpkin. I would recommend using not a ribbon yarn for this. I realized as I began working with it that it was a little bit more challenging, but I used both a bulky weight yarn and a lighter worsted weight yarn, and they came out perfect. I had no issues. So thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe for the next tutorial.